Mom, there's so much room on this for a coffee table. Oh, yeah. No,
You got your reaction? This is what our Dr. Adam.
If I remember correctly, it was that big
Are you reading the news? So structure checks out.
But like, with people connecting, I need to like
I now call this meeting of the Student Senate to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I want to begin our Student Senate meeting taking place on Thursday, October 17th, 2024 with the land acknowledgement. We recognize that Kansas State University, as the first land-grant institution, stands on the ancestral lands of the Kaw people. Our state of Kansas is home to 4 federally recognized Native nations, the Iowa, Kickapoo, Prairie Band, Potawatomi, and Sac and Fox. We must remember that the land serving as the foundation for this institution was and still is stolen land acquired by white settlers. We pledge our commitment to creating decolonized spaces at the university while advocating for the support and future success of Indigenous faculty, staff, and students. And with that, Speaker Pro Tem Heseltine will take away with our first roll call.
Alvarez.
here.
Black.
Here.
Rugen.
Here.
Byers.
Here.
Casement.
Here.
Koch.
Here.
Erickson.
Here.
George. Giefer. Glasscock.
Here.
Griffith.
Here.
Hassan Shakib. Hannah. Hoffman.
Here.
Holmes.
Here.
Islam. Jacobson Madeline. Jacobson Michael.
Hello,
I gotcha.
George is here. The network let me in so late.
No worries.
Hello,
I gotcha.
can you hear me?
Okay.
Hello,
Okay.
hello.
Mayoa, do you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, we
I
gotcha.
was having problem with the network before. The network.
Okay, yeah, all good, Mayoa. Welcome back.
All right, please, can you please make sure my name is Tick?
Yep, gotcha.
Oh, thank you.
Jonak.
Here.
Carton.
Here.
Keen. Kidd. Kermer.
Here.
Lee.
Here.
McCulloch. Moltz.
Here.
Morris. Nagai Velasquez. Otto.
Here.
Peterson. Palenko.
Here.
Prey.
Here.
Robbie.
Here.
Rafferty.
Here.
Richenberg.
Here.
Shahasavari. Shirky.
Here.
Stewart.
Here.
Strunk.
Here.
Sushanik.
Here.
Uphouse.
Here.
And Sacco.
Here.
Okay, and with that, if you'll please join me in, Senator Giefer.
I'm here.
Okay.
Noted. Okay. With that, we'll go into first open period. So if you will close your laptop screens and join me in welcoming State Senator Sydney Carlin, State Representative Sydney Carlin.
Thank Thank you so much. It's nice to be here with you tonight, and I've enjoyed chatting with some of you this evening and around before this, too. I'm Sydney Carlin. I'm going to be serving my 12th term in the Kansas House because I have no opponent this time. So that's good and it's bad because I'm missing the drama, but I'm missing the drama. Nobody's stealing my signs. And it's just crazy. I really want to be here for you, and so I'm going to give you a little bit, and I hope you'll ask me some questions to show me where you're at right now and what you're thinking about, what you care about, because you're about 80% of my district is students. In the last census, I lost 10,000 people, and so I have the University, Aggieville, downtown, Northview, and Blue Hills area, and it's like shrunk. And so I lost everything in the outer rims, and there's 3 new representatives that took parts of my district. So I'm really basically student-based now, and I've always felt the university was my biggest job. Ever since I was elected to city commission, supporting the university was a high priority. I thought I would I'll tell you about my committees. I serve on appropriations. That's where we spend the money. It's good in the good years. The first year I was elected was '03, and we were cutting the budgets, but Governor Graves graciously cut most of the spending before Kathleen Sebelius took over. That was in the days when everybody worked together. And it was really nice because the new governor didn't have to really try to decide what we could do without experiencing, the actually running the budget. So in the years that we had too big a tax cut, we cut $500 million a year out of our budget for 7 years in a row. And I was part of that process, and that's not fun. So last year, we had extra money, and we were able to do a tax cut. The process was interesting because we had agreement, so much agreement that everybody wanted to cut the taxes, and just a little bit of discussion on what things got the most of a cut, but we all kind of knew we were going to cut this, 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 and this. And so it worked out pretty well, and we actually had unanimous votes a couple of times. The governor didn't always support us, but we did vote together most of the time, and that was really fun after years of just really partisan one-upsmanship that I've been experiencing. So I enjoyed that. And we can talk about the particulars of the tax cut if you want to. That'll be a question you can ask me. One of the things that we did cut was, we actually enhanced. We made cuts in how much you pay, and we added enhancements. And the child care tax credit was doubled, and it now matches the federal child care tax credit, which is one of the things that when we worked on the repealing of the Brownback tax plan, we tried to get that benefit upped for childcare, and we failed on that. So I was really happy that we got it this year. I serve on appropriations, the funding, and I serve on Ag and Natural Resources Budget Committee. I'm the ranking Democrat on that member, and on that committee. That committee has 14 agency budgets. So we look carefully at those budgets, and we are the ones that report back to the full appropriations committee and try to hold the things that we feel are necessary for those budgets. And then I also am the ranking member on the Ag and Natural Resources Committee, which is the ag issues. Water has its own committee now, but for many years it's been under that committee, and still there are parts of it under our committee. I also serve on the Corrections and Juvenile Justice Oversight Committee, which is an interim, like during November, we'll meet 2 or 3 days. We look at prisons, we look at programs for prisoners, we look at budgets for payroll, and we gave a really good raise to our help at the prisons because it had been 9 years since they'd had a raise. Federal government was paying more for federal prison guards, so we were losing people. We didn't have enough people. Year before last, there weren't enough people on the payroll so that we could have Christmas visits for the prisoners. That was pretty sad. So things got out of hand when we cut too much. So if you're ever serving government, please be really respectful of the needs of the government. It is, it's not a business. You can run it with business procedures and you can run it with business acumen, but you must take care of the agencies and the people that work for you. And there are things that you have to spend money on in government that you might be able to cut in your own business. So that's my little lecture there. K-State does really well for funding, and we had, I looked at the budget, the University Regents budget was $6.3 billion of state general fund, and then another $5 billion out of all funds, which comes from federal grants and that kind of spending. So it's like $11 billion a year that we spend on higher education. This year we added $25 million for the the Agriculture Innovation Initiative, which you're seeing all over campus. That was kind of off and on. We had to work for that one. And we added $5 million for the Kansas Water-Wide Institute, which is your new water education here. $4 million for an immersive training hub, which I'm not sure what that is. And $3 million for the advanced immersive research. So we're spending some money on that. I'm really anxious to see something to show me what it is. And we added $2.6 million for the dairy debt service for the new dairy facility. It's amazing what we're going to do to the agricultural area out there. It needs attention, really needs attention, and it's going to be a fabulous benefit for the university. Also, I was really pleased that we were able to get $2.2 million of state's general fund to pay on the bonds for the BRI, the Level 3 Bioagri Defense Lab. I think we have another year or two on that. And the universities had to pay those bonds off with their operating funds, and we had extra money, so we were able to kick in a couple $1 million for that. And also, we added some things for the University College of Aviation at Salina. So if you are interested in flying, we've done some things there. And we've got a $25 million enhancement for remodeling in residence halls. So that's a lot of cash that's coming in besides our operating funds, for operating the university. These are the things that had been neglected. So I don't know where you need me to be right now. I can talk about what I've done, but I've been there 22 years. You don't want to hear all that. So I'd like to, is it a good time to open for questions? If I've spurned your curiosity, I'd love to have some questions. I think that's the best way to do this.
Legislative
Yes.
Director Talbert.
Yes. So my question is, what do you anticipate being the biggest issue as we head into session in just a few months?
Well, it's not going to be abortion because we already decided that for Kansas, right? Yeah, right. It'll be a very big issue. I will just say the issues that divide us are school vouchers, abortion, gay marriage, gay treatment, and marijuana. Those are the things that divide us, the social issues. Otherwise, we all work together pretty well for the benefit of creating jobs and growth in Kansas. So which one? Well, I don't know. Last year there were 28 bills introduced on abortion right after we had voted to allow it in Kansas. So there will be those. I don't know. That's a taste. What would you like to see? What should we work on?
God only knows. So.
Yeah, there's plenty to do.
Senator Shirkey.
Yes.
So I'm a representative for the College of Engineering here at K-State, and I was wondering what steps you were taking as a leader to support science and technology throughout the state of Kansas. Obviously, we're primarily ag state, but especially with things like NBAD, we've seen that there's a lot of places for very advanced science and technology in Kansas. How are we supporting that and making sure that we have the technical leaders of tomorrow?
Very good question. How are we supporting? The first part you asked me, I'm sorry.
How are we supporting, more projects like NBAF? How are we
okay.
getting more,
Well,
projects?
NBAF itself is going to spurn a lot of growth in the scientific area. That was the whole thrust of our putting so much effort into NBAF, was because of all the growth that should come from that. We are supporting education courses at the technical college to teach people how to work in those labs and how to how to be in a lab. That's an education of its own that we're not used to here. So that's one of the things. And the university is supposed to be developing some courses as well that would enhance that. But we also want to go, in engineering, we have had a 10-year plan for an extra $3 million a year for all the universities that have engineering for scholarships, so that we really had a very bad engineering shortage a few years ago, and you all are coming out now that we started that program with. And so we're investing in education for those fields. That's the best I can tell you right now, but we will continue to, because that is a need.
Caucus Leader Black.
Yeah, so in your opinion, what should young people be doing to be active and fulfill our civic duties, I guess?
Volunteering is the number one thing. And the people in this room, you're volunteering, you're putting yourself out there, you're collecting ideas and bringing them forward. That's at that level. But before you get to this level of an elected position, there's a lot of things you can do to just encourage others and to volunteer. And I think that's the biggest thing that you can do to get yourself into the leadership positions that you are in now and above. We need your energy in everything, and we need your expertise in technology. Oh my God. Carson was my intern once. He probably didn't tell you that. But it's really nice to have a student in the office that can actually click, click, click on that technology stuff. So, and it's changing so fast, I bet he even has trouble keeping up.
I do. Senator Moltz.
I represent Health and Human Sciences. I'm curious, you represent a lot of college students, you said. College students are pretty broke. What are you doing? What is the Kansas State House doing to fight food insecurity for Kansas residents? Provide more assistance for food. I'm from Western Kansas, so I'm really curious if there's anything being done for some food deserts that we have out west. I'd love to hear what you have to say.
It is a focus of the Ag Committee and of the Ag Department. And one of the things we did this year was we passed a bill that would put $1 million into projects where people were growing fresh food that would be purchased by the state with that $1 million to be distributed in communities that do have food deserts. Well, and we all have food deserts. There's in every single community. So, but fresh fruits and vegetables are difficult in the winter especially, and so we're hoping these dollars can be used to build like hydroponic facilities so that you can grow year-round, and then we'll buy the product. Now, that is a very big step. It really is. I did have 2 committees that dealt with that issue, and in both committees, I had comments come from members of the committee that voted against it that said it's not our job to feed people. I disagree with that. But there is an attitude like that. And we only had one in each committee, so we did pretty good. But that's one of the things we're doing. We do purchase and distribute foods that are left over from farmers markets. And so we are trying to get fresh food and vegetables. There's a group in Wichita that does a fabulous job of feeding people. They have trucks that take the food around. We're looking at those things. And they have refrigeration that they can set out where people can get meat and things that need to be refrigerated. So we're working it really hard.
Time for questions has expired.
Senator Shirkey.
I move to extend the time for questions. I move to suspend the rules and extend the time for questions by 4 minutes.
Second.
Is there an objection? The time is extended.
We also have a question online.
Who is it?
It's Jacob.
Senator Hoffman.
Hey, thanks for being here. I just have a question. I know this year Governor Kelly is really trying to...
Jacob, we can't hear you. Wait, take your
Can
mic
you hear
out.
me now?
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
There you go. Thank you for being here. I know this year Governor Kelly really focused on trying to expand Medicaid in Kansas, and it unfortunately didn't get through. Do you believe that this upcoming new Congress, hopefully based on the election results, do you believe that there's a shot that you'll be able to get this passed this year?
I appreciate that question. It's up to the people of Kansas. We have to have at least 2 new Democrats to get the even vote on it, okay? So if you've got a choice between a Democrat and a Republican, you don't know which one to vote for, think about the balance of government we could get if we have 2 more of the minority party. Any 2 in any town. I mean, we have a lot of qualified candidates running on both sides, but the balance of power needs to be where we can bring things to the floor by a vote of 71 people, and we have 40. We always have a few that will vote to do those things, but we're short about 2. So that's one thing that we can do. The other thing is we've been saying for years 150,000 people would be able to go on Medicaid. After COVID, we allowed people to get on Medicaid without a lot of the rules that used to apply. And so for this time from COVID to now, they have been covered by Medicaid, even though they may not be at 138% of poverty. Because of the pandemic, we had to go ahead and take care of people. And that was the best way. This year, we have to take those people off. So there's like 90,000 people coming off of Medicaid that have been covered. So those people will be really, could be really hurting. And so we've got 240,000 people now that need to be covered. So I hope we can get it.
Caucus Leader Black.
Yeah, I kind of want to expand on the last 2 questions, but what is being done to solve the issues in rural healthcare and like almost creating healthcare deserts in areas where there's not access to physicians?
We have, because we have not expanded Medicaid, there have been a lot of growth in healthcare area needs coverage because we're not going to give everybody Medicaid. Not everybody's going to have a fair chance, but certain areas are getting built up and expanding their healthcare facilities because of political gain, okay? It's all politics, and it's all going to be spending state general fund money instead of federal tax money that we've already paid in. But that doesn't matter because it's politics. So we are trying to build up health care for youth. We've got homes for disturbed youth that were cut out during the Brownback era. We're putting those back into place where people who really can't function in a family home can be, where they get psychiatric help and care. There's a lot of expansion going on in Wichita, but it's not a desert, but it's central, and people can get there for health care. There are a lot of things. I'm not on the health committee, but I do see where the money goes. So I can't elaborate any more on that. But thank you for that question. It is happening.
Time for questions has expired.
Senator Shirkey.
Move to suspend the rules, extend the time for questions by 1 minute.
Second.
Is there an objection? Okay, Senator Glasscock.
Thank you for coming here to talk with us today. You talked a little bit about specific initiatives from K-State that is being funded by the state legislature. Does there seem to be a wider kind of willingness to fund more higher education across Kansas from the state legislature?
It's better than it was when times were tight. The Board of Regents does a really good job of giving us the best projects so that we don't turn them down. But there is an element that would like to do away with a lot of the spending, and especially the spending for education. And they don't think we need all the universities, and they don't think we need a lot of things. So we do battle that. It is an issue. There are people that would like to make it very difficult to get higher education. They want an elite higher education rather than for all the people. Maybe that's my time.
Time for questions has expired.
Okay, thank you so much for coming.
You are welcome. Thank you for having me. I left some business cards on the table.
Okay, are there any further first open period speakers? Okay, seeing none, we will move on from first open period and go to the approval of the minutes. The minutes were passed out yesterday, along with the agenda and legislation tracking information. Is there a motion to approve? Senator Otto.
I move to approve the minutes.
Is there an objection? Okay, the minutes will stand approved. We'll now go into announcements. The first one is we are accepting applications to be on the Tuition and Fee Strategy Committee, or TFSC. TFSC conducts college fee reviews on a 3-year cycle and reports to the university president and provost on their findings. This year, the rotation will include the College of Arts and Sciences and Business Administration. If you are interested in serving on the committee, fill out the application here. 2, proxies. If you're going to be absent from a Student Senate meeting, fill out this link, even if you aren't sure if your absence will be excused. 3, if you'll be physically absent from Student Senate but would like to attend via Zoom, please fill out the Student Senator Zoom request form. Speaker Questa will review requests based on the Student Senate attendance policy. Please submit requests here. 4, want to give props to someone in Student Senate, fill out the Senate shout-out form, and Speaker Pro Tem Hasseltine will read them at the end of our meeting. Fill out your shout-outs here. 5, the SG Member of the Week is Britton Hanna. Britton has done an excellent job in SSF creating a spreadsheet that has helped the committee operate more smoothly. Britton also serves concurrently on the Senate Operations Committee. Thank you for your engagement and commitment to SGA Britton. 6 is the upcoming events calendar, but the dates are wrong, but the dates are correct. And the quote of the week is, if you don't have a seat at the table, you're probably on the menu, by Senator Elizabeth Warren. Okay, moving on from announcements, we'll go into approval of appointments. If the author will please come forward.
Resolution 24-2541, author Joseph Lilly, sponsors Senate Operations Committee. Whereas there is currently 1 vacancy for the position of Student Senator for the College of Arts and Sciences. Whereas Jimmy Owen was tied with the next highest vote totals eligible and willing candidates in the 2024 Student Governing Association general election in the College of Arts and Sciences and was chosen by the Senate Operations Committee in its capacity to break the tie. Whereas there are currently 4 vacancies for the position of Student Senator for the Carl Ice College of Engineering, and whereas Jordan Kramer has been nominated by the caucus of the Carl R. Ice College of Engineering in their capacity to fill the vacancy, be it resolved that, Section 1, the following individuals be approved as a student senator for the College of Arts and Sciences, Jimmy Owen. Section 1, the following individual be approved as a student senator for the Carl R. Ice College of Engineering, Jordan Kramer.
Are there any questions or corrections? Senator Shirkey,
Correction, line 28, section 1 and 2.
can you say that again?
Line 28, the section number is 1 and it should be 2.
Okay. Are there any further questions or corrections? Okay. Is there a motion to approve the resolution? Senator Shirkey,
Move to approve the resolution 41 unanimously.
is there an objection? Okay, if the people in the resolution would like to come forward and get sworn in. Okay, if you will raise your, hold on, wrong paper. If you'll raise your right hand and say, "I will" at the end. I do solemnly swear and affirm that I will faithfully execute the office of student senator and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the Kansas State University Student Governing Association. Okay, and then if you will introduce yourself by saying your name, major, hometown, favorite smell, and pronouns.
My name is Jimmy Owen. Pronouns are he, him. I am a geology major doing a minor in statistics from Tulsa, Oklahoma, and lavender is my favorite smell.
My name is Jordan Kramer. Pronouns are he, him. My major is civil engineering, and my hometown is Hastings, Nebraska, but loving it here in Kansas, so it's great. And favorite smell, I was gonna say gasoline, because that's pretty common, but also causes brain damage, so I'm gonna go with the smell before it rains, because, yeah, I think that's a nice smell, so thank you.
Okay, with that, we will go into committee reports. Do any committee chairs have a report? Chair Shushanik.
Tonight, I have two things to report on. First of which is that the committee voted to hold Bill 2425-26 in the committee indefinitely. We just felt that there were more productive solutions that were actively being workshopped in the pipeline, and instead of passing legislation or referring legislation out that might be passed, it would be better to have SAC take a more holistic look at the project and making sure we weren't going to contradict ourselves. The second thing I have, since we have our first SSF contract in final action here tonight, I wanted to do a quick run through reminder of what SSF is, how our process works, and then field any questions that you guys have generally about the structure of SSF to hopefully make final action go a little bit smoother here tonight. So, the student services fee. This is a fee that everybody pays on their tuition. It is a floating fee, meaning it changes yearly based on enrollment. So depending on how many students we have that are enrolled for 12 credit hours, that determines how much money we actually bring in at the end of the year, which is why you will hear us talking a lot about a surplus or having to make cuts. So historically, during 2020, when we had a great decrease in enrollment, we spent the next 3 years making very significant cuts to our entities to make up that lost revenue. This year, we know that we will be looking at increased enrollment and will therefore be seeing a surplus. I cannot here tonight report on those official numbers because I can't do that until after my meeting with the exec team on Friday, but next Thursday, I will have a whole brief on what our enrollment surplus looks like this year. We don't have the exact numbers, but we can see how much enrollment has increased and make some conclusions. So every year, this past year, you paid $489 on your tuition statement for 12 credit hour full undergrad students and 9 credit hour grad students. Cool. The committee does not unilaterally have the power to set the price of the fee that you pay in. That is set by KBOR. The committee can bring to the Senate floor a request to increase that fee, which would ultimately be presented by the student body president to KBOR and approved by KBOR. So nothing that we will be doing tonight, at least, will change the price of the fee that all students will pay into. SSF goes to the big three. One of the big three we are reviewing this year will be the union, so you should be seeing a contract for that sometime before winter break as well. Just a breakdown for you guys to look at. There's a really good breakdown and a pie chart on the SGA website. Kudos to whoever made that, probably Brady. And it has a fairly interactive pie chart as well as the dollars going to each entity. I think the easiest way for y'all to have that information is to look at it in the website rather than putting it up on the PowerPoint. It didn't fit well with the formatting. Andrew. These are what we will be reviewing this year, and tonight will be student design services. The way the SSF process works is that we review everything in a 3-year contract cycle. So the entities that we're reviewing this year are being reviewed for the first time in the past 2 years, and the contract that we have tonight will hold for the next 3 years. We typically spend anywhere between 3 to 5 weeks working on these presentations and these contracts to bring them to Senate to make sure that they're fully fleshed out, the committee understands the decisions that they're making, and we like the contract language that we have written. Are there any questions?
Senator Shirkey.
Bill 26, held indefinitely. Is there an initiative that would be, a better version of Bill 26 that's in the works? I know there were objections raised, especially by our accounting staff, which are very serious and need to be listened to, regarding the actual feasibility of Bill 26. Is there a plan for some type of oversight for the different governmental budgets right now?
From what I understand, SSF is in a really fun position where we have the ops chair who actually sits on our committee. And Joseph was able to inform us that ops is working on ensuring that all the duties of the treasurer after the treasurer position was disbanded about 2 to 3 years ago are actually delegated to positions that currently exist. And there are more tasks that haven't been delegated, such as reporting, which used to be a duty of the treasurer. So he felt that it would be in the benefit of this body to have a more comprehensive bill that really thought through the process of making sure all the treasurer duties are taken care of in a way that is most efficient and effective.
Thank you.
Are there any further questions? Okay, seeing none, thank you. Are there any further committee chairs? Chair Lee.
All right, I made this promise to you guys that I was going to give you guys an allocation update on where diversity programming funds are. And so today's the day that I can give you where the committee's kind of at. So super cool stuff. So again, a little reminder what diversity programming funds are. So again, they're for on-campus projects with educational value that are intended to provide cross-cultural learning experiences or education on these topics. And so it's kind of really broad, but allows the committee to kind of be the judge of each applicant that kind of requests our funds. So far, there have been 12 submissions as of today. We have accepted 6 applications and denied 3. And so you might be wondering, why only 6 and 3 and not the full 12? Because this last meeting on Monday, we didn't hit quorum, and so we heard 2 presentations, but we're unable to make any funding decisions that night. And so we'll make those decisions on Monday, fingers crossed, if everybody's there for that meeting, ideally. But yeah, so let's dive into the specifics here. So again, DPF budget, about $137,734, and we've allocated about $22,457 so far. So I think we're on a good track where we are now. The committee is doing a really good job of being, I personally think, being responsible, being mindful as to how we're spending our money and where and what will make the most impact for students when it comes to different events that different groups are holding on campus. And so I'm really proud of my committee so far and the questions that they're asking. And the standards that they're setting for this year, especially when it comes to everything. So, yeah. So basically, these are the applications so far that we've considered on a rolling basis. Sigma Tau Delta, we've funded them $0. I'm not going to read all of it, but feel free to take a look as to the different groups that we've funded so far this year, and how much money we've allocated to those groups as well. And so, yeah. So basically, on the side, also, other than reviewing DPF applications, the DIB committee is tasked with more than just DPF funding requests. Where I argue that we're more of the outward-facing outward-facing committee of this branch, and so we do a lot of engagement with different student organizations. And so I've kind of worked with them to establish kind of 4 subgroups that kind of identify different areas that the committee as a whole kind of want to address. So again, visibility and engagement with SGA, with other groups, is something that's been a priority for everyone, and it kind of ties into outreach and awareness, advocacy and inclusivity. So in what ways does the university advocate? How do we advocate for students, and how do we make sure that there are spaces for students here on campus, as well as resource development? So we're cooking up some good stuff this semester. So hopefully we'll have some projects done by the end of the semester, and I'll be able to give you a nice lofty update as to what the committee's done so far by the end. But yeah, please, if you have any questions at any time, feel free to email me or text me if you have my number. But yeah, I'm opening up the floor.
Are there any questions? Caucus Leader, Elections Commissioner Comer.
Yep.
Do you potentially see a lot more applications coming in? Because it seems like there's kind of a low amount of applications.
Yeah, I'm not sure on what the trends were like this year around last year. I'm hoping more and more applications will come in, but yeah, I think it's quite low. I'm hoping by the funding deadline's coming up, November 1st is our deadline for this rest of the semester, and so I'm going to be making a big push, sending out a lot of emails and connecting with folks just to make sure that they know if you want funding for your events, apply. So we're just having a hard time getting more applications than we want. Yeah.
Senator Shirky.
I just have a basic question about the structure of DIB. Are there any other large pools of money you send out for certain events besides the DPF for rolling allocations?
No, so we only deal with DPF funds.
Thanks.
Are there any further questions? Okay, seeing none, thank you.
Great, thanks.
Are there any further committee chairs that would like to give a report? Okay, seeing none, are there any directors that would like to report? Emerging Leaders Coordinator Haynes.
Hello, my name is Emily, and I just wanted to give you an update on the Emerging Leaders program. So right now we currently have 18 emerging leaders going into phase 2, which is really exciting. They wrapped up phase 1 tonight at their last phase 1 meeting, and they're all really excited. So they're going to be sworn in next week, as well as getting their mentors all at Senate next week. And then thank you to everyone who came to the ice cream social. They were all really excited to go into phase 2, and a mentor is a really important part of that process. And Carly and I thought it'd be a really good idea for you guys to get to know them a little bit more personally before you mentored them in this organization. So thank you for that. And if you found someone you connected with, you can fill out the preference form. But also, even if you don't have a preference on a mentee, it has some feedback from past mentor-mentee with the emerging leaders' experiences. And that feedback would be really helpful for Carly and I going into this. And then new senators, if you want a mentor, please sign up and fill out the preference form, because it's not just for emerging leaders, and that's a system that could really benefit you guys as well. If you have any questions, you can ask Ops Chair Joseph Lilly or Carly or I. Thank you.
Are there any questions?
Awesome.
Okay, seeing none, thank you. Speaker Pro Tem Hesselstein.
Hi guys, in the spirit of reporting, the majority of the treasurer role is actually my job, and so our accountant was kind enough to create this spreadsheet that has every single one of our expenditures that we've had for the total of the year. So if anybody's curious, we just wanted to get up here and kind of show you what we've spent so far. So Andrew, if you can slide over just a little bit. There we go. So for the entire year, SGA has a budget of $89,242.55, and so far we spent $45,353.77. And so I just kind of wanted to get up here and show you this, and in case anyone had any questions. If anybody wants to see the entire document, I am happy to send that to you. But since we've had some questions about this here in the past few weeks, I thought it would be important for me to kind of get up and report this to you all. So I really just kind of want to get up here. I can share this with anyone who's interested, but I really just kind of wanted to open it up for questions for anyone who was curious. And I am also totally happy to send this to you. So.
Are there any questions?
Awesome. Well, here's just a little glimpse of what we spent so far.
With that, are there any further directors that would like to give a report? Okay, seeing none, we'll go into the approval of the allocations. The first is Bill 242522, FY25 allocation to the Latin Dance Club. It was referred favorably from SAC 6-2-0. They requested $1,600 and they recommended $1,500. Bill 242523, FY25 allocation to the Pocono Entomology Club, referred favorably from SAC 8-0. They requested $600 and were recommended $600. And Bill 24 FY25 allocation to the Resonant Acapella Club was referred favorably from SAC 6-1. They requested $2,500 and were recommended $2,000. Is there a motion to approve? Chair Strunk.
I move to approve the allocations.
Second.
Is there an objection? Okay, the allocations will stand approved. And with that, we will go into final action on Bill 242525, increases to the student design services, student services fee contract. If the author will please come forward. Were there any changes in committee?
Yes. We changed the wording of just a couple things, and we added, this doesn't seem, oh, it's on. And we added one whereas clause on line 14 to say that SDS is currently being funded at $41,928 for FY25. And then pretty much all the other changes were just little grammatical tweaks.
Okay, you have first rights to debate.
As chair of this committee, I see my job in debate as really to defend the work that my committee has put in for the last several weeks. The first week we heard presentations from SDS. The next week we sent in a whole bunch of questions that we had brainstormed, got our answers, reviewed those, and discussed very thoroughly for many hours. I think that they are very well informed in the decision that they've made. And have put in a lot of work and a lot of effort and thought to make sure that this was being done in a very thoughtful way, knowing the responsibility we have to spend student dollars. The only significant changes that we really made to the contract that we had prior was to do a 3% increase. We know that we're going to have a fairly sizable surplus this year based on an enrollment increase. And I think it's a really great opportunity to be able to give some money back to an entity that had to face pretty significant cuts due to COVID. And hopefully we can carry this trend forward of at least being able to give some money back. It's nice to see a transition out of the past 3 years of doing very significant cuts. In the scheme of things, the money that we're giving back, 3% increase for a roughly $40,000 budget isn't actually that much money. And we have added one contract line in on section 3C to allow SDS to charge fee for service if they so choose, which I think could be a very interesting avenue for them to explore should they choose to.
Okay, seeing as that was debate in the positive, is there any debate in the negative? Senator Giefer.
My thoughts on this is we always seem to complain about how much school costs, and it's things like this where we can directly affect that. And by increasing this, we're only making the problem worse. I think it's really easy for anyone who is getting, school paid for to say, oh yeah, we can do this. But we represent students who are really struggling, and I don't think burdening them with a greater cost of education is something we should do.
Okay, seeing as that was debate in the negative, is there debate in the positive? Caucus Leader Jonak.
Real quick point of information, is this bill raising the student services fee at all?
No, it is not.
Thank you. So my main point about this bill is that we're talking about $1,200 over the course of 3 years for a group that creates promotional material for organizations all across K-State. It is not costing students any more money and is not raising the student services fee. So if you believe that, it's incorrect. Thank you.
Seeing as that was debate in the positive, is there debate in the negative? Senator Shirkey.
I have 2 quick points I'd like to make in the negative for this. The first is that, to what the previous speaker said, it's correct that this legislation on its own does not increase the student services fee, but I do believe it's the responsibility of our chamber to be mindful of all allocations. We have the luxury right now, since we're still in the kind of beginning of the SSF season, to be wise about how we make these allocations and not to overspend. If we increase everything we get our hands on, eventually that student services fee is going up. And that does a disservice to our constituents that are already paying a very high burden for their education. For that reason, we should exercise our judgment while we can to prevent erroneous increases in the fee later on. The second point is that specifically student design services is not sufficiently marketed to the student body to justify this increase in spending. I've served on, I think the maximum was 10 student organizations over my, so far, 3 years on campus. Not a single one of them was able to use student design services, not because they were ineligible for it or anything, but simply because it was poorly marketed. Now, it is possible that all 10 of those organizational leadership just weren't monitoring their emails correctly. It's possible they weren't looking at the resources available to them. But I believe that the real issue is that this is not a program run by people that are sufficiently capable of spending this money to justify the 3% increase. I believe we should put money in the hands of people that will wisely and diligently spend it in a manner that will help all students. And I don't see this organization as a place where that can happen. So I ask you all to vote against this legislation. Thank you.
Seeing as there was debate in the negative, is there debate in the positive? Caucus Leader Black.
Yeah, I want to thank previous speakers for concerns that they have brought up, because these are things that we have thought about in the committee meetings. We chose to do all of these, we chose this for some very specific reasons, but the first of which is kind of like, you're right, a previous speaker was correct in saying that they may not be adequately marketed, and there was some questions of what is this necessarily offering students and student orgs per se, and we kind of came up with some things to fix that within the contract. So the first thing that I want to highlight is Student Design Services is a group of students from graphic design majors that get undergraduate experience in graphic design things. So that's the first reason why this is important, because when we talk about Kansas State as a university, one of those big questions is how well are we preparing our students to go into the marketplace? So it kind of is a good on-campus internship for those students which they can then go out and apply once they hit the job market. And then some other things we are allowing them to do is they have a bunch of excess reserve money. Well, it's not reserve money, but they have a lot of excess money set back right now. And we put in here that we want to allow them to use that to grow student design services so they can offer more and solve a lot of these issues they have. When you speak about, not just like you figuratively, not anybody in specific, when student design services during COVID got reduced their budget by 30%, which is going to be something we see throughout this whole year. And we're going to talk about how a lot of things are going to get an increase. Their money's not huge, so it's not necessarily going to hurt the overall fee, but we do need to treat all of our dollars preciously. But they went from having 8 people on staff to 3. And that's part of the reason why they're unable to offer as much as they can, is because they are working as best as they could right now. And we want to allow them to grow and continue. And next time they're reviewed, then we're going to see whether or not their funding is appropriate or not. So please vote for this bill, because we're going to allow student design services to continue to offer good undergraduate experiences to students and support our student organizations in all of their events that they want to throw.
Seeing as there was debate in the positive, is there debate in the negative? Seeing none, is there any debate in the positive? Chair Strunk.
Yeah, so I would say that our organization has definitely been, facing decreases to many entities in the last couple of years because of, the student services fee, being less of a pool because of us having less students. We're seeing, we have more students now, therefore we have more money. And at the end of the day, these are student dollars being allocated back to entities which will help students. So you should vote yes.
Seeing as that was debate in the positive, is there debate in the negative? Seeing none, is there any debate in the positive? Elections Commissioner Kermer.
I'm actually trying really hard not to just laugh out loud to the negative debate. This is not raising the fee. This is a rebound after a COVID reevaluation of the fee. The amount of friends that I have heard that have complained about the lack of student jobs on campus is quite large. And by us reinvesting back into student design services, that's providing more job opportunities for people on campus. So please vote yes.
Okay, seeing as that was debate in the positive, is there any debate in the negative? Seeing none, is there any debate in the positive? Senator Griffith.
Now, I don't recall the exact stat, but I do remember something that Dr. Lane told me, that we are seeing that for the first time since at least 2020, but I think even before then, we are seeing an increase in enrollment from the previous year. That means that, and it's not an insignificant increase. That means that we have significantly more money to deal with. That means that we're able to consider things like an increase in student design service, something that I can't say I've ever used in the past, nor any club I've been a part of, but I know gets a ton of use. Something that is used constantly by students, getting an increase in fee from their dollars. This is, in my opinion, the best representation of a good spending bill, so I urge y'all to vote in favor of it.
Seeing as that was debate in the positive, is there a debate in the negative? Seeing none, is there any debate in the positive? Senator Shirkey.
Move for the previous question.
Second.
Is there an objection? Okay, seeing none, we will move into previous question and vote on Bill 242525, an increase to the student design services fee contract. And Speaker Pro Tem Hesseltine will take it away with a roll call vote.
Sorry, I'm trying to find my screen. Okay. Alvarez.
Yes.
Black.
Yes.
Blood.
Abstain by proxy.
Okay. Brugan.
Yes.
Byers.
Yes.
Casement,
Yes.
Koch,
Yes.
Ediger,
Yes by proxy.
Erickson,
Yes.
George. Okie dokie. Giefer,
No.
Glanville,
Yes by proxy.
Glasscock,
Yes.
Hassan Shakib.
Yes.
Sorry. Hannah. Hoffman,
Yes.
Holmes,
Yes.
Holzmeister,
Pass by proxy.
Islam, Jacobson Madeline, Jacobson Michael, Jonak,
Yes.
Carton,
Yes.
Keen, Kidd,
Yes by proxy.
Hello,
Kermer.
George is here. George is here. George.
How would you like to vote?
Come again.
Would you like to vote?
Please, can you list out the name of can you say the name again?
The name of the bill. The name of the bill.
It's Bill 25, an increase to the student design services, student services
Okay.
fee contract.
Okay. Yes.
Awesome. Lee,
Yes.
Lily,
Yes by proxy.
McCulloch,
Yes.
Moltz,
Yes, and point of information, Bolton was skipped, but yes by proxy.
oh, okay. Morris,
Yes by proxy.
Nagai Velasquez,
Yes.
Otto,
Yes.
Peterson, Palenko,
Yes.
Prey, Robbie,
Yes.
who just said, did two people say it once? Okay. Rafferty,
Abstain.
Richenberg,
Yes.
Shahasavari,
Yes.
Shirky,
No.
Sides,
Yes by proxy.
Stewart,
Yes.
Strunk,
Yes.
Sushanik,
Yes.
Uphouse,
Yes.
Zacco.
Yes.
Okay. And then for I think we had one pass. Holzmeister?
Yes by proxy.
Okay. So,
Hold on. Were there any senators who didn't get to cast their vote? Senator Griffith,
I vote yes.
okay.
Elections Commissioner Kermer,
I vote yes.
and,
know.
and Senator Owen.
Sorry, there's a couple people who didn't get, never mind. How would you like to vote?
Yes.
Okay. And then did I get all of the new senators? Yes. Okay. Well, yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, that will pass 40 to 2 to 3.
Okay, with that, we will move on from final action and move to the introduction of the allocations. The first is Bill 27, FY25 allocation to Architectural Engineering Institute. The requested $750 and recommended $750. The next is Bill 28, FY25 allocation to the American Society KSU Student Section. They requested $1,500 and were recommended $1,500. The next is Bill 29, FY25 allocation to the Blue Key Honor Society. They requested $2,726.75 and were recommended $1,680. And then the last is Bill 30, FY25 allocation to the National Society of Black Engineers. They requested $1,500 and recommended $1,500. Is there a motion to consider? Senator Griffith.
And then we can make the allocation.
Is there an objection? The allocations will stand considered. We'll now go into introduction of legislation. The first item is Resolution 242542, Recognition of Indigenous Peoples Day. Is there a motion to consider? Senator Otto.
I move to consider resolution 2042. Second.
Is there an objection? If the author will please come forward.
anywhere. How's the weather, guys? While I'm looking for this, so many of them. No, I really like the cold. It's doing great. All right. Recognition of Indigenous Peoples Day. Authors Alondra Alvarez and Andrew Lee. Sponsors nobody. Whereas Kansas State University Student Governing Association aims to recognize the significant role historically underrepresented communities play in enriching our university. Whereas on the second Monday in October, the U.S. celebrates and honors Indigenous Americans and commemorates their histories and cultures. Whereas the second Monday of October was redeclared as Indigenous Peoples Day to recognize the strength and resilience of Indigenous communities who were historically persecuted and relocated by European settlers. Whereas the United States is composed of 574 federally recognized tribes and approximately 200 unrecognized tribes, each consisting of their own unique cultures and traditions. Whereas according to the 2020 U.S. Census Bureau, people of Native American origin make up 1.3% of Kansas's population, whereas 0.4% of students enrolled at Kansas State University identify as Native American, and whereas celebrating Indigenous Peoples Day provides Kansas State University an opportunity to recognize the achievements, contributions, and history of, and to understand the challenges faced by Indigenous communities, be it resolved that Section 1, the Kansas State University Student Governing Association, officially recognizes the second Monday in October as Indigenous Peoples Day at Kansas State University. Section 2, KSU-SGA encourages all students, faculty, and staff to take part and engage in activities or events that celebrate and amplify Native American voices. Section 3, upon a passage by the Student Senate and signature of the Student Body President, a copy of this resolution shall be sent to the President of the Kansas State University Native American Student Body, Joseph Pondillo, Program Coordinator for Multicultural Student Life, Brandon Clark, Director of Multicultural Student Life, Kevin Santos Flores, Vice President for Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging, Dr. Raina Johnson, Assistant Vice President for Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging, Corey Williamson, Vice President for Academic Success and Student Affairs, and Dean of Students, Dr. Thomas Lane, Provost and Executive Vice President, Dr. Jesse Perez Mendez, and University President, Dr. Richard H. Linton.
Are there any questions or corrections? Okay, seeing none, thank you. With that, we'll move on to Resolution 242543, resolution to support improved access to printing at Kansas State University. Senator Griffith.
I move to consider Resolution 43.
Second.
Okay, if the author will please come forward.
Point of information, I'm allowed to bring my computer up here, right? Yeah. Neat. Resolution 242543, resolution to support improved access to printing at Kansas State University, author Philip Shirky. Whereas, printing for students at Kansas State University is generally run by IT, such that each student receives a set financial allocation to be spent on printing each semester. IT staff have been initially consulted regarding the contents of the resolution, where they stated many students use significantly less than the allocated amount, which therefore represents a false and arbitrary limit on the natural printing market. At the same time, students whose curricula require significant use of printing and who are not provided with printing by their college or department suffer a hidden cost to their education by being forced to pay for critical class materials out of their own pockets. Unlike the cost of some other class materials, the cost of printing is known by IT to be relatively constant year to year. Quick point, I actually got an email just before coming to Senate that has a lot of numerical data on these costs, and I'm happy to answer questions on that. Anyway, there is precedent at KSU for free at point of use printing, specifically within the College of Engineering, which has been used to inform the policy recommendations below. And assuming that the pending consultations I have with IT and the provost, Dr. Mendez, do not reveal any hidden dangers, the evidence shows that making the university printing system free at point of use would allow it to better match demand year to year with increased or decreased funding while providing equity to KSU students pursuing their education in a world still partially reliant on paper. Be it resolved that Section 1, KSU-SGA supports free at point of use printing for KSU students. Section 2, we recommend that the current policy, a dollar amount of allowed printing per student per unit time, be abolished. Section 3, in order to ensure a defined printing limit still exists, We recommend that a page limit be introduced of 30 pages per week per student, refreshed each Friday at 6 a.m. and allowed to reach a maximum value of 150 pages per student. For those of you that don't know, that's exactly what engineering does. KSU SGA asks that the Office of the Provost, the Faculty Senate, and the Division of Information Technology at Kansas State University similarly support this initiative. That is how we get all the names in Section 5, and I am in contact with all of those people as we speak. Section 5, upon passage by the Student Senate and signature of the Student Body President, a copy of this resolution shall be sent to Provost and Executive Vice President Dr. Jesse Perez-Mendez, Faculty Senate President Dr. Teresa Duthet, Faculty Senator Dr. Kevin Wanklin, Director for Academic and Student Technology Scott Finkeldye, and Student Senator Philip Shirkey. Dr. Wanklin and I are getting a copy so that we can smooth the negotiation process along and have the bill text.
Are there any questions or corrections? Senator Moltz.
Question for you. Do you
Yes.
not believe that if we take the restriction of cost off of printing, that we would see a skyrocket in printing? I know I like paper, so then therefore wouldn't the cost go up?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And that's actually the heart of the conversation I'm having with the provost. How can we estimate what will change demand if this policy actually becomes a fact? Now, we know that oh, my screen's not here, so I can see this data. I know from consultations with the IT director, Scott Finkeldye, that the printing budget is relatively constant fiscal year to fiscal year. We expect that there will be a slight increase in demand. One, because there are going to be students that usually just wouldn't print, or maybe they'd buy it at the union. The union printing center is actually not run through IT, so we don't know how much printing they use. They might then start to use the Hale Library facilities because they're now free. Additionally, there's a risk that faculty might see that paper is now free and then go on a spending spree, having people create more paper reports and less online reports because it's easier for them to grade and whatnot. Talking to the provost, I'm looking to get a financial allocation through that arena that will cover the cost of increased demand. I can guarantee that student services fee is not going to go up because of this, and you are not going to have to take money from your voters to enact this resolution or the policies that come with it.
Senator Zago.
Can you expand upon the College of Engineering's printing policy, the 30 pages per week or whatever?
Yes. So this is actually, I think, more than a decade ago. I was talking to the College of Engineering staff in our main dean's office. They don't even remember a time before this policy. But in engineering, where it's common to have large paper reports, they want to have essentially unlimited printing for students because they don't want their students to be constrained financially by the demands their professors put upon them. What happens when you're in engineering, we have a common area called Fiedler Learning Commons, and it's got printers in it. You can go to those printers, you swipe your ID, and you just print. There's a computer somewhere that keeps track of, how many pages you have. And when I asked the people in the dean's office, they haven't heard of a single student running out of their limit. So it is infinite printing for students in practice. And we found that it does not cost significantly more for the College of Engineering than if they were to use Hale. And so that's why I'm recommending it here, because I think especially in some of the other STEM colleges that there will be a benefit to several different majors as a result of this change in policy.
Caucus Leader Black.
Yeah, this might initially sound debatable, but have you thought about maybe just increasing the amount of not free printing, but the amount of printing that students get per semester? Because
yeah, just change the numerical amount instead of doing a significant policy change here.
How does this impact the amount of paper waste we will be producing as a university? I guess if students there's no incentive not to print useless things. I know there are things that you need for class, but
yeah, that's another really good question. So, from my data sheet here, we see about. I will note that in theory, the amount of money we could spend on printing in a semester is $200,000 because it's about 20,000 students times $10 per semester. We never get anywhere near that. That's the theoretical number. And we have 213,235 pages printed as of September 30th, 2024. Totally separate issue that I am working on. Recycling at K-State, not anywhere near as good as it could be. A lot of that paper that you think you're recycling after a bad print job might not be getting recycled. Separate issue, be dealt with in more legislation. Right now, I think that, again, there might be an increase in demand because people will be printing extra, right? They, might be doing single-sided instead of double-sided, stuff like that. And again, in order to remedy that, I'm working with the provost. The paper waste is handled well enough by the status quo, again, pending future legislation I'm going to do for recycling, that's not a concern in this legislation. The concern is entirely financial. Is this going to increase costs for you and your voters? No. Is this going to increase demand? Probably not. And we have a plan for that. So.
Okay.
Senator Griffith.
How willing has IT and faculty at large, how receptive have they been to this resolution? I think that you've been in communication.
You see, that's the most important question. Because as student senators, we don't operate in a vacuum, right? We don't just operate downwards to our voters, we operate upwards with administration and to faculty. And it's very important that the people whose livelihoods we affect with our legislation actually support the legislation. IT has been very receptive of this proposal. In fact, the guy I spoke to, Director Finkeldye, was incredibly enthusiastic that SGA was finally starting to further interact with printing through this capacity. He's been very prompt in his communications with me. It's been very helpful to have all of his data. They've had their kind of like financial officers in IT providing me that information. It's been very helpful. Faculty, you'll see in the Section 5, Faculty Senate President, Dr. Duthit, she's just notified so that Faculty Senate as a body will be aware that we're doing this. The other guy, Dr. Kevin Wanklin, he's from engineering. I know him because he's my academic advisor. And I worked with him to bring this up to what I believe it's called the Technology Committee in Faculty Senate. They're the guys that would run this through, and if there was a faculty resolution co-sponsoring it, which there might totally be, it would be done through that tech committee. They're also very happy about it. They do want more data, which of course they actually will get from Scott Finkeldye, who is a member of that committee. And so, everything kind of goes together, everything works in harmony. But myself and Director Finkeldye believe that we'll get a lot of support from IT and faculty from this. So,
Senator Byers.
So far.
I guess with midterms and everything that happens at the university, like we are a student-based campus. I know I printed probably more than 30 pages this week because I have a lot of tests and a lot of study guides, and I'm a very paper-oriented person. What do we do if a student needs more than 30 pages, but we're not able to offer them that?
Yeah, that's another important question. I'll also first caveat this by saying this wouldn't go into effect, it would go into effect on like a nice clean time scale like the start of another academic year, because I do not want to deal with the mess that would be caused of implementing this during a semester. The actual policy will be done by IT. We don't have authority to tell IT what to do in this case. This is just an atmospheric resolution. But the banking to 150 pages per student is how we get around that. This happens in engineering all the time. We have to print 60-page colored reports for one of our graphics projects. Firstly, that one specifically is done through the union. A conversation I'm having with IT is, what type of printing do we outsource to the union? Do we put the good colored printing out to the union? Do we put the laminated printing out to the union? If we need to, the library can reduce the types of fancier printing it offers in order to make the budget crunch and outsource that to the union. I've heard of people doing more than 30 pages. I have not heard of a faculty member doing a 150-page report. I'm going to do my damnedest to make sure that does not happen. That is, again, why I'm talking with Faculty Senate. Why I want to make sure that faculty know this is not a license to just abandon the ways of paperless. That is not the way to go. So,
Caucus Leader Black.
Yeah, so is Section 3 saying that, like, I know this is not how it will actually work out, but is that 150 pages per, like, semester, or?
I actually haven't checked in engineering exactly how it works. And this is something where IT would decide. I believe it does not refresh at semester. So I stopped in like December 15th with 147 pages because I printed 3 stuff before the year ended for an engineering final. And then January I get back and I've got 150.
So my question is, you already get like, if you print double-sided black and white, you get 150 pages. So I guess, do we need a new system? Would this just be like driving away from like having it be a running dollar balance to having it be a page balance, or what?
That's basically what it is. And the reason that I'm proposing that we go from a dollar balance to a page balance is by having a dollar balance, this actually happened during COVID. We had a lot of people that were suddenly printing a lot more, and they temporarily increased it from $10 a semester with but 5 over the summer to $20 a semester and 10 over the summer. That is that kind of policy constraint that we have to constantly change this dollar value is a risk that, you know, when the next pandemic hits or when some other event hits that requires a vast increase or decrease in printing, that we're going to have a lag time where the students are harmed before the policy is changed. By having what would be in practice infinite printing, we remove that entirely as a factor. The only things that affect how much paper IT buys, how much ink they buy, how many machines they run, is the actual market.
Senator Carton.
So there are numerous different styles of printing on campus. So does this involve 8.5 by 11s, 11 by 17s, and anything that is plotted within the College of Architecture, Planning, and Design that might be bigger?
Yeah, that's another critical thing that probably going to outsource to the union. The policy, because in engineering it would only be 8.5 by 11, your standard black and white. They don't even have color for free at engineering. And I think that's fine, because I think that's what most students are going to need most of the time. I think if it's fancy, if you're in the College of Architecture, I have not spoken with the College of Architecture. I'm sure they have systems in place to manage that, because everybody there knows that this is a constant demand their professors impose. If not, we'll use the existing systems at Hale. And if that doesn't work, we'll outsource it to the union, which is definitely something that IT is considering doing in the event that I don't want to create like a separate policy for every style of printer and every type of ink. That would, I think, be a mess. And so we're going to leave that to the professionals and the private sector.
Are there any further questions? Okay, seeing none, thank you. With that, we will move on to Resolution 242544, the resolution to support the Open Access Textbook Initiative. Senator Griffith.
I move to consider Resolution 44.
Second.
Is there an objection? Okay, if the author will please stay up here.
Resolution 44, resolution to support the Open Alternative Textbook Initiative. Author, Philip Shirky. Whereas the Open Alternative Textbook Initiative has been funded by the Kansas State University Student Governing Association, K-State Libraries, Kansas State Administration, and most recently, donor support. As explained in now not that recent, open period presentation by K-State Libraries personnel, OT provides no or low-cost textbooks to students who would otherwise have to procure them at full price. It's constrained by the policies and products of various textbook publishers regarding licensing, online homework assignments, other e-services, and more. Despite these difficulties, OT has already saved students over $10 million through diligently researched and well-considered purchases. And supporting OT is one of the most cost-effective ways KSUSGA can benefit students. Be it resolved that Section 1, we support OT and a general policy of providing no or low-cost textbooks to students. 2, we recommend that the university exercise its bargaining power relentlessly to purchase textbooks only from publishers that are amenable to OT. We recommend that faculty use no or low-cost textbooks whenever reasonable. We recognize the work of K-State Library staff in providing low or no-cost textbooks to students. Upon passage, Section 5, upon passage by Student Senate, signature of Student Body President, copy of this resolution shall be sent to Dean of Libraries, Dr. Joe Mocknick, Faculty Senate President, Dr. Teresa Duthit, and University President, Dr. Richard H. Linton. I have a correction on line 37. There's a comma that comes after Linton. That should be a period.
Are there any further questions or corrections? Okay, seeing none, thank you. With that, we'll move on to Resolution 242545, recommendation to parking services to establish the donations for citations program. Is there a motion to consider? Caucus Leader Black.
I move to consider Resolution 45.
Okay, if the author will please come forward.
He's coming.
Okay.
All right. Sorry about that, guys. Thought that would take longer. I was hoping there'd be more questions. But yeah, resolution 242545, recommendation to parking services to establish the donations for citations program. I'm really excited to tell y'all more about this. But authors Andrew Lee, sponsors Max Black, Adelaide Easter, Alexa Hesseltine, Brady Kappelman, Joseph Lilly, Jack O'Malley, and Paige Vogelmore. Whereas the Kansas State University Student Governing Association, KSU SGA, strives to facilitate innovative solutions to address student concerns and enhance students' well-being, whereas many students face hurdles when addressing parking citations issued by Kansas State University Parking Services, whereas Kansas State University lacks an alternative program to students in remitting payment for their citations, whereas several Big 12 institutions have successfully implemented programs for students to donate to campus food pantries in lieu of remittance for parking citations, whereas Kansas State University recently adopted the Okanagan Charter, embedding health into university culture and promoting health collaboration and action to foster a healthier campus environment, whereas these aforementioned initiatives are aligned with the Okanagan Charter under Call to Action 1.5, Create or Reorient Campus Services, and whereas KSU SGA should lead the implementation of an alternative program for students to reduce parking citations and promote community well-being. Be it resolved that Section 1, the Kansas State University Student Governing Association, KSU SGA, recommends Kansas State University Parking Services to formally establish the Donations for Citations program. Section 2, KSU SGA recommends that the program be structured as follows. 1, Kansas State University Parking Services will allow for students to reduce 1 parking citation per academic year with the donation of 10 or more non-perishable food items or hygienic products with the following limitations. A, students may only participate in the program once per academic year. B, citations related to life safety violations are excluded from participation. These violations include but are not limited to blocking driver vehicle, restricting traffic flow, unauthorized storage, excessive violator, parking in reserved or service stalls / permits, fire lane or hydrant violations, accessible stall or ramp violations, use of forged, altered, or stolen parking permits, illegal registration of vehicles, illegal disabled placard. C, all donations must adhere to the CATS covered official donation policy. D, Kansas State University Parking Services reserves the right to reject items that do not comply with their donation policy. E, Kansas State University Parking Services reserves the right to cancel or modify the program with 30 days written notice to KSU SGA. F, the program will be internally reviewed at the end of each academic year to evaluate its overall effectiveness and assess financial impacts on Kansas State University Parking Services. 2, KSU SGA will lead promotional efforts to ensure students are informed about the program and its guidelines. 3, KSU SGA will coordinate and manage the transportation of donated items from parking services to CATS covered on a regular basis, depending on program participation levels. 4, KSU SGA will partner with Kansas State University Parking Services and CATS covered will establish the Donations for Citations program starting January 21, 2025. Section 6, upon passage by the Student Senate and signature of the Student Body President, a copy of this resolution shall be sent to Director of Parking and Transportation, Adrian Tucker, Morrison Family Director of CATS Coverage, Shelley Williams, Morrison Family Associate Vice President of Student Wellbeing, Kathleen Hatch, Vice President for Academic Success and Student Affairs and Dean of Students, Dr. Thomas Lane, Provost and Executive Vice President, Dr. Jesse Perez Mendez, and University President, Dr. Richard H. Linton.
Are there any questions? Senator Griffith.
How receptive has parking services been to this plan?
So luckily, some historical context, I brought this up, I would say, sometime mid-spring of last semester with the previous parking director, as well as Director of Facilities, Mr. Casey Lauer. And we, alongside some folks from the executive branch, were able to sit down and have a good conversation as to what kind of scope does this kind of program look like. And we came to an agreement, and we haven't worked on it over the summer, but luckily, Ms. Tucker came in during the summer as a new parking director, and I was able to sit down with her and kind of reorient this to their vision and their values. And so the parking services has been 100% on board with this program, as well as CATS coverage. So we have support from all ends, and so it's just a matter of getting this out there and actually getting it implemented.
Senator Shirkey.
I have a correction or point of information because I might be wrong.
Yeah.
In the line 61, the word days, does it need an apostrophe after it?
I don't think so. I'm not too sure.
And I have another correction. I'd like to be added as a sponsor. Line 7.
Okay. Senator Maltz.
Just a question regarding marketing following this passage, if it would. We're outlining a lot of how we want the program to work. How are you planning on marketing that to the student body? Are there plans outlined?
Yeah, so I have a little master document I've been working on. So this is a big collaborative effort. I brought up the idea to I threw it out there. The historical context is originally it started out as a question to KBOR, and it kind of just became this kind of big thing. And so luckily I'm collaborating with our student body president, student body vice president, and their team, folks here in the legislative branch. And so we're kind of getting all hands in on this to be able to actually get this implemented. So yes, while this does outline a kind of program, we are working with all the folks that are necessary to be able to get this done. And so after we lay out our plans, because right now we're meeting next week to talk more about it, then I will meet with Ms. Tucker to kind of go more in depth as to what SJ's role will be.
Chair Strong.
Yeah, so it says KSU SGA will coordinate and manage the transportation of donated items. So how do you envision that looking like? Who's going to be responsible?
Yeah, sure thing. Again, that's another point of our conversation as well. And so it's kind of one reliant on how full parking services gets, because the idea is the students will donate items at the parking garage, which is where parking services is housed out of, and they have a lot of space there to be able to use that. And hopefully the goodwill of student centers and the goodwill of folks in SGA and our peers will be able to help us coordinate those transportation times and kind of manage that process.
Elections Commissioner Kermer.
I love this idea, but I just want to make sure that this is not going to negatively impact parking services budget.
Yep, 100%. We have talked about the fiscal impact has been the number one priority, and I actually have some fast facts when it comes to how other institutions are doing it. I believe the University of Texas has seen about a $5,000 impact to their budget. The University of Houston has seen about a $1,000 impact to their budget, and the University of Colorado, CU Boulder, which we destroyed last week. Very good. Yes. I think they waived about 187 citations and saw a fiscal impact of about $8,700. So, if Ms. Tucker wants to talk more about the fiscal impact of what we're looking at here, can I do that?
We're estimating on the high end about $14,000 a year. We will be evaluating this at the end of spring semester to see what the actual financial impact was, to see how we can continue the program into the 25-26 academic year.
Yeah, so this is 100% a pilot program, and I know a big priority, and I don't want to speak on Ms. Tucker's behalf, but I think a big priority this year for parking services is to be more embedded into the K-State community, and I feel like a program like this is worth the cost to be able to do that.
Yeah, granted.
So just say that we were to lose $14,000 in revenue, what negatives are we going to see on the parking services side?
None really. Our citation revenue that we collect annually is about $500,000, which is about 20% of our budget. So 14,000 of that is, it's not a drop in a bucket. It's not an insignificant amount, but it is definitely a cost that we can absorb.
Thank you.
Senator Griffith.
Have you considered at all the fact that many students who are not financially well off and are potentially getting food from CATS covered would be unable to participate in the program due to their poor financial situation? And how do how do you think that?
Yeah, so I think this is 100% a perspective that we have taken into consideration. Some other programs that are similar to this have implemented where those students can contribute to volunteer hours at a community organization as in lieu of making a donation, but also looking at it overall. Let's say, for instance, a can of green beans, right? A can of green beans is about $1.25. If you're donating 10 cans of green beans to Cats Cupboard, that is a significantly less cost to your pocket than it is to pay a $17 citation because you didn't pay the meter all the way, right? And so this is, again, I think this is we're testing this out for the first year, and I hope to work with Ms. Tucker to continue expanding this as we see fit and making sure that we're accommodating for all students, because I think there's no right answer right now when it comes to addressing that part of it, but I think this is a great start to something at K-State that we can not only be one of 2 institutions in the state to have this. The only other institution that has a program like this is Wichita State University, and if we get this, KU doesn't have this either, so I mean, we should have it now.
Are there any further questions or corrections? Senator Glasscock.
So how much would you expect? How much is the expected reduction of each citation, or is it a full wave of any level of citation? Is there any expectation as to how that will work?
Yeah, so the limitations of it, so each student is granted at least 1 citation per year, right? That's the basic limitation. And it will basically be reduced to a warning. And that's basically it.
Senator Shirkey.
How did you come up with that specific metric? Why not 2 a year or 3 a year?
Because since this is the first year we're kind of doing this, we don't want it to be we're too big of an impact on parking services. If Ms. Tucker wants to talk more about that, yeah.
So by starting this in January and then evaluating it in May, we can get a snapshot of what the fiscal impact will be for a semester. So if we look at that amount and say, hey, you know what, we can absorb a little bit more, then we can expand it the following year to 1 citation a semester, right? But if we can't, if we cannot, then we will keep it at 1 per academic year and see whether some other ways that we can revise the program without there being a fiscal cost to our department.
Yeah, so we're trying to set limitations to make sure that this is a calculated and responsible approach to some type of implementing this program.
Thank you.
Caucasier Black.
Yeah, I kind of have 2 questions. But the first is, when, do you think this will have an effect on students parking, committing more parking violations because they know they can do it? Which, I mean, it would probably not make this impact the revenue as much. And the other is, will students that do not have a parking pass but get a ticket, or even non-students who park on campus and get a citation, will they be included in this program?
I think it's just any visitors that come from just in general?
Yeah.
Okay, I guess for the first part, yeah, I think that's always a risk when it comes to something like this is, yeah, oh, this is my get out of jail free card, which isn't the intent of this program, but I think overall, I mean, the impact is far greater than that, and this is not intentionally made for students to be able to use this as a get out of paying a parking citation. I think that's one aspect of it. To your second point too is right now we're when it comes to setting up the early limitations of this program is focused on students that attend Kansas State University. In the future, perhaps maybe that's something that we can expand on, but again, a calculated response and a calculated approach to this program is necessary to ensure that we're not making too big of a dent. And if there's flaws in this as we continue to see implementation, we can fix that before we continue expanding it.
Do you have another question?
Yeah. Just kind of, will there be differences between those who have parking passes and those who don't, I guess?
What do you mean?
So, I mean, I know a good amount of people that just don't have parking passes. Can they get their same ticket waived as somebody who has a parking pass would?
Yeah, so there's no, they're not put into two different categories at all. So everyone's viewed at the same level.
Senator Griffith.
This is a point of information more directed to the Director of Parking Services. Excluding the excluded categories, how much is the average ticket citation for the violations that would be included in the program?
So for people who do not have a permit, it's $55. For people that do and then park in the wrong area, it's $39.
And then,
So
yeah,
average out between the two.
and the meter citations are $17. I've gotten plenty of meter citations.
Are there any further questions or corrections? Okay, seeing none, thank you. With that, we will move into second open period. Are there any second open period speakers? Okay, seeing none, we will go into the reference of legislation, bills.
Mr. Speaker, I have
Yes.
a point of information, question
Yes.
for you. Because this is the first time I've proposed a bill. Do I have to go to like whatever committee you reference it to and like tell them about the bill or?
It's not required, but a lot of people do. Okay. With that, we'll go into reference of legislation. Bills 27 through 30 will be referred to the Student Allocations Committee. Resolution 42 will be referred to the DEIB Committee, and resolutions 43 through 45 will be referred to the Strategic Oversight Committee. And with that, Speaker Pro Tem Hesseltine will take it away with Senate shoutouts.
Shout out to Carson for clicking Sidney Carlin's computer. Shout out to intern Questa clicking on that technology stuff. Shout out to Carson keeping up. Shout out to Carson clicking away with his magical technology. Shout out to somebody just added one that threw me off. Shout out to Carson for being tech savvy. Shout out to hello. Shout out to gasoline causing brain damage. Shout out to Corporal Moltz taking over for Captain Lilly while he is away at the front lines. Keep fighting the good fight, soldier. You're dismissed. Excellent. Shout out to Liam Payne. May you rest in peace. Shout out to Senator Shirkey. Definite front runner for most likely to be a U.S. Senator award. Shout out to Representative Carlin for staying through Senate. Shout out to all the emerging leaders and members at large in the room tonight. Love you guys. Shout out to the interim Parley for serving tonight, posing like a snack up there. Shout out to the SSF committee. Keep up your great work, guys. Good job tonight. Shout out to Max Black for eating it up in the debate tonight. Shout out to Alondra for being a queen. I bow at your feet and worship the ground you walk upon. Sam, hey, it would be super cool if the sponsorship form was in the agenda. Thanks, Sam. Shout out to Soup, good soup, and then tell you guys my favorite soup. I actually really like miso soup. Soup is really good. I also like tomato soup. Shout out to Destroying Colorado, especially Boulder. Shout out to UC Boulder, go Cats. Shout out to the adorable little girl who's here on behalf of Parking Services tonight. She just left. Shout out to great and well-prepared legislation like the donations for citations. This will truly help students.
Okay, and with that, Speaker Pro Tem Hesseltine will take it away with our second roll call.
Alrighty. Alvarez. Here. Black.
Here.
Brugan. Byers.
Here.
Casement.
Here.
Koch.
Here.
Erickson.
Here.
George.
Here.
Giefer.
Here.
Glasscock.
Here.
Griffith.
Here.
Hassan Shakib. Hannah. Hoffman.
Here.
Holmes.
Here.
Islam. Jacobson Madeline. Jacobson Michael. Jonak.
Here.
Carton.
Yep.
Keen. Kidd. Kermer.
Here.
Lee.
Here.
McCullough.
Here.
Moltz.
Here.
Morris. Nagai Velasquez.
Here.
Otto.
Here.
Peterson. Polanco.
Here.
Prey. Robbie. Rafford.
Here.
Rafferty.
Here.
Richenberg.
Here.
Shahasavari. Here. Shirky.
Here.
Stewart.
Here.
Strunk.
Here.
Sushanik.
Here.
Uphouse.
Here.
And Zacco.
Here.
With that, is there a motion to adjourn? Senator Glasscock.
I move to adjourn until same time, same place next week.
Second.
Is there an objection? We stand adjourned.